Hello everyone. In today's lab we're going to start with an introduction to texturing. Um, I'm not going to do too much explanation. I'm going to just dive right into it. So I've opened up Maya. I've created a cube. This is going to be sort of your final result, but I want you to see what this looks like. So I went ahead and I already textured it and I added a light into the scene so you could actually see it. I used the Arnold shader. Message me if your Arnold shader isn't coming up in your materials. But anyway, let's just dive right into it. So I'm going to select on the cube. I guess I could edit, delete all by type. Or I'll show you real quick. This is me projecting my UVs, which we're going to get into here shortly. The cube itself. And then this is the material, which I should have named. Crate material, or crate Arnold material. Alright, so I've added a color map, a specular map, and a normal map. And we're going to touch base on all three of those things today. So right now you can't see, this is my light that I just selected. Right now you can't see the texture because I don't have my shaded display with textures on. So I'm just in the standard 5 mode where it says shaded display is on. If I tap 6 on my keyboard, now you can actually see the texture, but it's looking really dark and glum and gloomy. And then, so that's shaded display with textures on. And if I press 7, it's use all lights. So basically 7 is going to be shaded display with texture on and lights on. So if you ever get confused, 5, 6, 7. Very simple. Almost like the 1, 2, 3, right? So 1 mode, and then 5 is shaded display, 6 is shaded display with the texture map on, and then 7 is with lighting as well. So this is basically going to be our final product once we're all said and done. So this cube goes from this to this, okay? So it doesn't look like a plain bland cube anymore. Now it's just a little crate. So how do we get there, right? Let's save this real quick and then file, new scene, and let's kind of dive into it. So the first thing I want to do is I need to get my cube in my scene. And you could scale it larger. That's what I did. Let's make it simple numbers. 7, 7, 7. And then the other thing I did was I just dragged it up. So it should be 3.5 to be exactly on the grid. Another way to do that is if you snap your pivot point holding D and V to the bottom, and then you can hold X to snap it directly to the grid. So that's another way to do that, but I already know that since I have this all at 7, that half of that, because when the pivot point's at that center of it, exact center, I know that it's half of it because I know it's negative 3.5 from that point underneath and positive 3.5 above. Now, when I start this, I'm going to go ahead and show you under Panels. I'd like you to go to Panels and go to Saved Layouts, and then we're going to go to Persp UV Editor. So this is our UV editor, this right here. Now you don't really see anything other than basically a standard grid. And if I click on this, you'll notice that my UVs for this object show up. So I'm going to switch to face mode and you'll see which faces I'm selecting on my texture pattern. So this is what your texture will look like by default. Now, this isn't really efficient. We could do this lab like this, but I want you to learn how to start to unwrap things. It's a crucial thing in 3D modeling, knowing how to texture your model. And to do that, you have to unwrap your UVs. That's what it's called. So With that being said, there's a number of different ways to do this. I'm under rendering. Let's go to modeling. So under UV, under your modeling tab, you have your UV editor, UV set editor. Don't mess with that. It's just going to just stick with the UV editor. And then you have these different ways to actually unwrap your object. So you have automatic, best plane, camera based, contour stretch, normal base, cylindrical, planar, spherical. Now, I'm not going to dive too far into these things. If you're unwrapping something that's cylindrical, a staff, a flagpole, anything in that cylindrical shape, this might be the way to go. If you have something round, spherical might be the way to go. Camera based could be very, very useful. I really like the camera based one because if I wanted to select just, let's say, this face and holding keyboard shortcut space bar and going to UV, and then going to camera based, you'll notice it actually does it based directly off the camera, which can be very, very useful. So for today's lab, we're going to stick with just the automatic unwrap because it can do it very easily on something very boxy. And to do that, I'm going to hold spacebar, UV, and automatic. And you'll see it really nicely spaces out my UVs in this box. And the point of this is you'll see it is at exactly 0, 0 in the bottom left corner. The UV map, even though if you zoom out it has all these extra things, it's 0 to 1. So the only thing that's going to be able to be seen on your texture basically without it repeating itself, we're just going to stick with 0 to 1. So it has to be inside 0 to 1 box, okay? So from 0 to +1 on the y-axis, and then 0 to +1 on the x-axis here. So basically what you're doing is when you're unwrapping something, think of it as just sort of taking a three-dimensional object, like clothing is a perfect example, where they have seams here on your clothing. This is where they stitch it together, and you're basically, if you were to cut up these seams and lay it out on here, that's in that 0 to 1 ratio, you'd be able to texture on it, and that's basically what it's doing. So that's the best example I can really think of. Or if another example would be if you took a piece of paper, like a folded piece of paper of an airplane, right? You folded a piece of paper into a paper airplane, and then you unfolded it, right, and had it in that 0 to 1 ratio, and all those lines that you see from the fold would be your basically your seams on where you could texture and things like that. So that's really the best examples I can think of until you dive in and start to understand it a little bit more. But anyway, so we have this now fully unwrapped. Our cube is now fully unwrapped, and we need to make some adjustments to it. So not to the cube itself, but we need to start to get into texturing. So before I dive into all of that, let me open up Photoshop and see what I've got here. So this is the original crate, that image that I created, and I'm going to show you how I got this far with this. This is how it looks like on the diffuse map. That's what I would call it. Standard name for it, albedo diffuse texture color map, whatever you want to call it. And then I converted it to a normal map as well as a specular. And the specular works off of black and white for lighter parts being shinier when you rotate around, and darker parts having less shine and sheen to it. So anyway, back to here. So how do I get to this point? Is this the JPEG? It's a Photoshop file. So how do I get to this point? So how do I know exactly where these cubes are from the cube model? These UVs are when I do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that. I think maybe I have it on. Yep. So my background is my UV map. So we're going to export the outline of the UVs as a image file, and then we're going to open it up in Photoshop, and now we're going to have our UVs in here. So very useful to know, and let's go ahead and do that. So in Maya, I have my cube selected. I'm going to go to modify or tools, excuse me, and we're going to do move UV shell, and we're just going to highlight over all of these, and you should have a little green dot on each. The green dot symbolizes the UV point, whereas I know it's silly, this is actually a vertex, but it's showing you the UV points on the whatchamacallit, on the UV editor. So tools, move UV shell, and I'm going to highlight all of these, and it's going to select all of your UVs here. So one tool I like to have on is this shaded. So to give you an idea, because this will happen to you sooner or later, you can actually have these faces flipped when you unwrap something, because when you were modeling, you didn't, I don't know. Maya's pretty good about it now, because it actually will show you if it's inverted by just showing you an all black interior, typically. Let's see. So Maya's pretty good about it now. And if I turn this off, you'll see. And when you have your object selected, it's also going to show it to you on your model. But if I had one of these faces flipped, UV, or let's see, reverse. So what I did was I reversed the normal, so now you wouldn't technically see it on this, because this is actually a two-dimensional polyplane. It's actually 6 of them to create a 3-dimensional object. So there is no technical side on this. Let me turn this off. You'll see, you could see it now on the inside instead of on these parts. So just something to stay aware of. Let's just undo it. So this way, when it's blue, it's facing the right side. When it's red, it's facing the wrong side. So try to make sure that you always remember to have them all as blue. So I know that these are all good because they're all blue on the outside, and I'm ready to export these. So tools, move UV shell tool. I'm going to select, click and drag, and then I'm going to go to image and UV snapshot. So tools, move UV shell tool, select all of your UVs, go to image and UV snapshot. Now you're going to browse where you want to save this file to. And we're going to rename it. So crate underscore UV shells. Doesn't matter. And I'm going to save this out as a JPEG. Yours might not say that yet, but just in case, if yours is on something like Maya IFF, you can click this little down part and go to JPEG. We'll just save it out as a JPEG. You could do any one of these. PNG, TGA is another great one. TIFF is a great one. But we're going to go with JPEG. Just keep it very simple. So browse. Now I know that. Now in old versions of Maya, I think it just does it for you automatically now. But in old versions, you actually had to put the extension so it knew how to save it out. And it's sort of grown as a habit to me. So this is going to be create UV map dot JPEG, and I will hit save and apply and close. And now it actually did rename my extension from, I even wrote the wrong extension, JPG. So I was following it off of the off of the actual name here instead of the extension. So it looks like it saved it out, and you can see that down here in the bottom right corner, saved file. Everything you do, everything that you've done as the last previous move, it's going to show you exactly what it is. If you moved something, rotated something, anything like that. Okay, so Now that I've got that done, I'm going to open up Photoshop. We're going to File, Open, and we're going to open up our UV. So now I've got this as my UV shell. You can rename this by double clicking and go UV map, save. And the next thing I need to do is start to texture this thing. So if I wanted to, I'm going to just show you really quickly. And I'm on a color. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? If I save this out, I always like to save out a Photoshop file originally. This is going to be my diffuse map. Click save. And then Maya can read Photoshop files. I've found on previous versions and computers that I've used that it doesn't always like to use Photoshop files. Maybe it's a lot better now in the 2025 version, but as a force of habit, I always like to keep a standard image. So I'm going to File, Export, and Export As. So File, Export. Oh, what did I just do? Oh, File, Export, Export As. And this is all good. I'm going to change the format to a JPEG. PNG is fine too. If your image had transparency, you'd actually prefer to save it out as a PNG because a JPEG file can't store the alpha. And export, and then in class example, and save. So now what I've done, I'm going to open up Maya again. I'm going to select on this, and I'm not going to change my material yet. No, I don't need to yet. You know what? I will. I'm going to change my material. So I'm going to assign a new material. So now that I've created my UVs, and I created the cube, I automatically unwrapped my UVs. I've exported the UV snapshot. Now it's time to add a new material. So I'm going to hold right click on my object with my object selected, right, in object mode, assign new material, and we are going to go to Arnold and AI standard surface. And now this will be my material. So AI standard surface 1. And I'm going to rename it, and just to show you real quick how to get there. So this is your polycube, which I should probably rename now as crate mesh. If I go into my attribute editor, we are going to go to AI standard surface. So this is my material. I'm going to rename this crate diffuse, or no, crate material, Arnold material, crate Arnold material. There we go. So now I know it's for my crate, this texture. I also know what it's for the AI, it's for the Arnold renderer, excuse me, which we're going to be utilizing this semester. And anyway, so now with that being said, now I can add that texture, and I'm just going to click on here. Nope, not under weight, under color. I'm going to go to file. So with my crate Arnold material, which was my AI standard surface 1, I'm going to go to color, and I'm going to go to file, and I'm going to open up that file where it says image name. I'm going to click on this, desktop, and locate my file and open. So now I've imported, or my image plane. Now when you're saving out these files, your texture maps don't embed into Maya. So if you're submitting a file with textures on the file, you have to upload not only the Maya file, you also have to upload the texture files as well. So you'll have multiple uploads for something like this. Now, with that being said, if I select on here and I want to get back to that color, I'm over here. So Why can't I see my texture right now? Well, that's because we're in 5 mode. We need to tap 6 on our keyboard, and now you can see where they're labeled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3. So all these different things. So what I could do, knowing this information, if I wanted to, and I'm just going to show you real quick, like this one right here, right? And I can tap 6 in my UV editor, and you'll see that it's rotated horizontally for this 4. The 1, I wouldn't be able to tell. I think it's the right way. 5 obviously is. 2 is. 3, depending on which angle you're looking at it, because it's at the bottom, and 6. But if I wanted to, I could take this and rotate it. So if I go to Tools, Move UV Shell Tool, and select it, I can now, you can actually rotate it just like so. But I think there's an easier way to do it. And oh, really quickly, I have this open already, your UV toolkit. So you can find that under UV, or no. Windows, Modeling Editors, UV, General Editors. Where is it? Yeah, I believe that is it. UV Set Editor, just to see if I can find it in here. So yeah, I don't have it up right now. Windows, UV Editor, it should pop open. Just want to make sure I've got this right for you. I think it should be there. I guess that's just where you find it. UV Toolkit, and I just click and drag this off to the side. I'll double check to make sure that that's where you locate it. I'll make sure that I find it properly up here somewhere if it does have it, or if you just go to Windows, Modeling Editors, double check everything. Okay, it's probably where it is. Okay, so Windows, Modeling Editor, UV Editor, and it should be there. If not, I'll make sure I post it in the Canvas shell. Now, panels, saved layouts, Persp, UV Editor. So now I've got this selected. If I go to my UV Toolkit, there should be a way to rotate it. Yep. And you can just rotate it exactly how you have it here under Tools, under the Transform, under Tools. So under Transform, Tools, you can rotate it either way 90 degrees. And if you wanted to switch it to, instead of rotating at 90, you could do like 45 and rotate it at 45 degree angles. But we're going to stick with 90 for now. So now I've got all of my, I know which way they're facing, right? I know that they're all rotated the right way, and I just wanted to cover that with you because sort of the earlier I start showing you this stuff, the faster and easier, and you'll start to remember it better. Now, while I have this open, I want to go ahead and start to get, I don't want it to look like a numbers box, like I just literally have a dice here that I could throw, right? And I want to go ahead and make this into a crate, right? So I'm going to open up our Canvas shell, and I've included a couple links. So this is the crate texture that I showed you from the beginning. I want to teach you how to create your own textures too. So this is going to be the first little example. Now, I used to be able to, I have a little old video, I haven't uploaded the new one to this shell yet, as I'm making it right now, but I used to be able to just pull up a crate texture, no problem, free and clear, no worries. Now that all these websites are requesting for a monthly subscription and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of bothersome because it used to be awesome. You used to get like well, it used to be totally free. Then they switched it to a point system. You get X amount of points to download textures every month under the free plan, which you didn't have to pay anything. And then just recently, within the last year or so, they've actually upgraded it to a full monthly. They give you like an option of like 20 free textures as examples, and it's not going to cut it. So I had to do a little research to see where I can find some free texture websites, and I came across a couple of them. I found this one to be probably the best one that I was able to locate, but feel free to use any free texture websites that you find that are, anything you publish, you'll want to make sure that it has free licensing to publish to anywhere, but that's all in the guidelines. For class, this is going to be more than acceptable. So I have this Polyhaven link here. I click on it. This is the exact texture that I had downloaded to create this. I guess I'll do the, if you click on here, I'm going to middle mouse button click to open it up in a new tab. This is your Polyhaven website, and you can search for all types of different textures under the assets tab. It has all these HDR, and they're basically like high definition textures, which include all types of different things, which is cool. This is the way that it used to just be like you download an image file, but now they have like these preview examples of what it would look like, and they include, let's just do this cracked concrete, and they display it on a sphere to show you. I think you can even do like a 3D example, and you can actually see what it looks like. And these are probably created using Substance Painter, which Adobe owns the rights to now, I believe. And you can see what it looks like on a 3D object before downloading it. So let's just switch to this one just to show you, and you can kind of see what it would look like. But they're great textures, but in this case I can't find just like a free and clear crate anymore, so I'm going to show you how you would create one using Photoshop. So I'll close out of that because I'm just using this, and all you do is click this download button and open. So it's going to download as a wood cabinet, whatever, 4K dot blend. I'm gonna cut this, go to my desktop, or this will work, and I'm just gonna paste it in here, and then I'm gonna extract it because it's downloads as a zipped file. Extract all, okay, extract. And now it just opened up as a separate window, but it's right in here. If I go to textures, you'll see it has the 4 different textures here. It has a normal map, and let's just open them up in Photoshop real quick, just so you can see what we actually did here. It's going to be this one, and that's fine. So it's showing you a rough map, it's showing you a normal map, it's showing you a displacement map, and a diffuse map. So those are the 4 maps it allows you to download to get those results that they had. This is the one that I used, and let me go ahead and show you how I did this. So back to Maya really quickly. I should have touched base on this a little bit earlier. I kind of slipped my mind. When I'm doing my UV snapshot, tools, move UV shell. where is it? Image, UV snapshot. I don't know if this was by default or if I had changed it. I can't remember. But if your image size looked different than mine, this is the perfect time to go back and redo this part. We already know how to browse. We already know how to change the file format. We're going to want to set the pixel size. I set it to 2048 by 2048. These work in, I think it's exponentially in 4s or something like that. So you could do 1024 by 1024. I have lock aspect ratio, but I did 2048, so double what 1024 is, and that's how you would have to do it. So the next one would be 4K basically, right? So you'd be in the 4096 by 4096, and you'd be in 4K res on your texture map. So we don't need our textures to be that high of resolution. Just so you're aware, 2048 is probably a little bit more than what we need. And if you've noticed, I don't know what kind of systems, you're all running, but if you notice any kind of struggle, just knock it down to 1024. And, but I'm going to stick with 2048. So that's what that is. So that's why I have the image files over here. This is a 2048 by 2048. Same with this one. But this one is the entire box. So I had to scale down my image. And we're going to get to that in a second. But just to show you, this is what you're able to download. Now, I'm not going to utilize any of these other maps right now. I don't need them. So I'm going to exit out of that, exit out of that, exit out of that, and I'm just going to be stuck with this image right here. So I'm going to zoom out, Control minus to zoom out, just to show you, and I'm going to press Control A for select all. I'm going to press Control C to copy, Control N to create new file, and I'm going to do 2048 by 2048, and if you need to change it, you can do it right over here. 2048 by 20, you just type it in. 72 resolution is what I'm using, RGB color at 8-bit, background content is white, that's fine for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit create. So now that I've done that, I'm going to paste my image in here. Now this image, I'll close these for now just so I'm not jumping around so many of these. I'll keep this one open for now, and this one as well. So this image, this is a 2048 by 2048, but I want to show you, see it says 4K JPEG. I'm going to just do Control A, Control C, and Control N just to show you. When you do that, on your clipboard here, it's going to show you the exact size of this. So this is actually a 4096 by 2048 image. And we know that the first one is double of what our size is set. So we have to start making adjustments on the scale. So here, if I press Control T and I'm going to hit escape. I've become so accustomed to using keyboard shortcuts. Edit, transform. I think it's in here. Scale, rotate. Scale. I guess that would work. But another keyboard shortcut, Control T. And do they have free transform? Control T. Perfect. So edit. Free transform is Control T, so that's what I was using. So I'm going to press Control T to for my transform mode. You'll notice that the image runs way far out. I'm going to press Control minus to zoom out. You could even use your little zoom tool here to zoom in and out if you wanted to, but it's much faster to remember these keyboard shortcuts. So let me run over them all that I've used so far, just so you know. Control A is, hold on, I gotta get out of this tool. Control A will select everything that's in the screen, but in this case our image actually runs off. Control C is copy, Control V is paste, and Control N is new. So anyway, with my, and Control D is deselect. So with just this image here, I'm going to press Control T to scale it down. Control T or your edit free transform. And now I'm going to just scale this inward. I wonder if you could. It looks like you could even set it to be exactly what you want, but and I'm not holding shift. You used to have to hold shift in Photoshop for this, but you don't have to anymore. Now you have to actually hold shift to distort it, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to scale that just to fit my image plane. I'll press enter when I'm all said and done with that. And now I've got this image here. The next thing I'm going to do, this is my move tool. I can just click on that. I don't remember what the keyboard shortcut is. V. Keyboard shortcut is V. And if you're unsure what any of these tools are in Photoshop now, you can actually click this little play button and it'll show you some things on the tools you're using. And I'm going to click and drag this down. I can hold shift now to make sure it goes straight down, and it should snap right to the bottom. Now, I'm also going to duplicate this. So I'm going to click on my layer. This will be bottom wood planks. And I'm going to click and drag this over this little square with the plus sign on it. You'll see it down here in the bottom right corner. I know it's very tiny, but it's a little square with a plus sign on it, and that will duplicate or copy that layer. And now with that there, I'm going to go to, oh, didn't mean to do that. Get this back into place so you can all see. Now I'm going to, that I've got this layer duplicated, I'm going to do edit, transform, and I'm going to flip vertically. And now I'm going to drag this up to the top to give me sort of a seamless looking image. And then you'll see right in the middle here, it looks like it might be slightly off. Let me just zoom in a little bit. And you can kind of see that. So I'm going to use my arrow key and just move it down 1 pixel and see if that helped. Well, you'll see it shifted 1, and that's better. Now I don't see that tiny little line. But it also looks like I am a little offset at the top. Maybe not. It's just my mind or my eyes. Should be fine, because I'm going to cover that area up anyway. So now I've got this image here of these wooden planks, and I'm going to start to create my crate image. So this is the start of it. I've basically just taken one image, scaled it down, duplicated it, flipped it upside down, and lined everything up properly. Not really tricky to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these images. I'm going to select one, hold shift, select the other one, because I always like to keep my originals. And I'm going to create another duplicate of both of them identically, and I'm going to press Control E to merge them down. Control E to merge them down with both of them selected. So now I have the originals that I was working with as well as the one that I combined together. So that's fine. And this I'm going to rename top wood planks. So I have top wood planks, bottom wood planks. Those are my originals. And then I have the one that I duplicated of both of them and merged together to make it one single image layer. Now the reason I did that is because I want to basically pick out some boards out of this and go ahead and make it look like this. So I'm going to go back over to here, and this is really simple. I'm going to take my little rectangular marquee tool, keyboard shortcut M. You can click in any one of these tools that has a little arrow in the bottom corner. I'm going to click and hold, make sure I'm on my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm literally just going to start picking out some boards that I want. So I'm going to highlight right over here, and there's my first board. I'm going to press Control C and Control V, and now it's on its own layer. Top plank, top wooden plank. I don't know, whatever. And then Control T to free transform. Hold Shift, and what I'm doing is I'm going right over the corner, and I'm going to hold Shift and rotate this around. And I'm just going to drag this right into place and then just move it a little up. So there we go. So the next one I'm going to do, I'm just going to find another board that I like, and I'll hide this one with this little eyeball here so I can see. I'll do, let's say, this one. Control C. And I'm making sure I'm on this layer, because if you're on this one and I press Control C, it's only going to give you one small little section. It's because I was copying it off the wrong layer. So anyway, just make sure you're on the right layer. So make sure you're on your wood planks layer, right? And which one did I? Doesn't really matter. I'll select this one next. And I'm just going from one edge to the other edge. Control C, Control V. We'll make this one the bottom wooden plank board. It's a long name, huh? Control T, hover over to the corner, rotate it around, holding Shift. Going to click and drag this into place. Press Enter, and I'll use my Move tool. Just click on that real quick and move it down a couple pixels. I think that'll look good. And Enter, or click off. Now I'll hide that one, go back to my wooden planks one. Which one did I just select? I don't want them to be identical, so it looks like I've selected this one, and on the other one, I want them all to be different. This one I selected, so I'll select this one next. Seems like a good choice, I don't know why. Control C, Control V, and Control T. And when you get really good at these keyboard shortcuts, this is actually really, really fast to do. Drag that over 1 or 2 pixels. I just want to make sure it's covering the edge. I think that's good. And then this will be, oops, just double click on the text, left wooden plank board, and then I'll select one more because I just want them all to be unique and different. And here, I don't think I picked this one, so we'll do this one next. Control C, Control V, Control T, rotate. Oh no, I need this one to just be on the right side. Actually, this one was probably a poor choice for this side, so let's do, I'm gonna delete that one. I don't like that one. Just gonna click on my layer and delete it because it's too close to the right side that I need it to be at. And I don't know, I hope I didn't pick this one already. Whoops, deselect. I will go ahead and pick this one. Oh, I just need this one on the right side. And now I've got my 4 boards. This will be my right wooden plank board. And this one I noticed I underscore. You can do spaces. I have a habit of underscoring everything. And now, oh, I need one more. Now I need one more. I forgot. This one just looks like it's too obvious to choose, so I don't know if I've done this one, but oops. Holding spacebar and left click allows you to pan around your scene. I'll do this one, and this one is going to be my diagonal one. So I'm going to rotate this around holding shift 15, 30, 45 degrees. I'm going to bring it right about to the middle, and I'm going to hold shift while I stretch this out, and I'm going to use my arrow keys to place it, and I'm just matching the diamond right here with each corner just to try to make it as accurate as possible. I think that'll work. And now I've got my diagonal wooden plank board. So now I've got all my boards. It still doesn't look like this one because I've went ahead and I added some shadows. It's really, really simple to do. I'm going to use my brush tool, tapping B on the keyboard, or you can click and hover over, make sure you're on your brush. And I'm going to utilize black, and I'm going to create a new layer underneath each one of these. So underneath the wooden one, this is going to be top wooden shadow. I'm going to set my brush. I'm right clicking on my stage here, I think they call it. Making it like, I don't know, that seems like a pretty decent size. The hardness I have set to 0, and I'm just using the standard default brush. And let me go ahead and show you how I do this. So, hardness to 0, and just click off. I already did a little paint. I'm just going to Control Z that. So right now I'm underneath my wooden plank board. This layer is directly underneath it. I'm just going to want a little bit showing up, which is why I have it the hardness at 0. So it gives that soft look. I'm going to hold shift and drag across. Now that if that's not enough shadow, we just didn't give it enough, and I'm starting just outside the stage, and now I've got a light little shadow. I'm going to give it a little bit more so you can see it a little bit better. I think that'll work, and I'm going to do that for each one of these. So here under bottom wooden shadow, I'm just going to start right off on the edge and drag across. Under the left one, left wooden shadow. And I gotta remember where I put this thing. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Ooh, way too much. Maybe a little less. Not enough. Too much. Too much. It really blends in well with this. I could see it better here. That's a better idea. I'll roll with that. I'm not gonna get too finite with it. Right wooden shadow. Going to just go ahead and start right here and just drag down from there. And then it might be, there we go. And then we will do the last one on the diagonal. Diagonal wooden shadow. And this one I'm just going to click right down here in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to hold shift and go to the top right corner on the bottom part of it, and just try to get that as good as I can. I'd say that's pretty good. Now, the one thing that I did on here is I actually added a highlight on this part as well. I didn't want to do it around the edges because it's going to look kind of weird if it has highlights around everything. But on this one, what I do is I create one more new layer, and I want to make sure it's on top of the diagonal wooden plank board. And diagonal wooden highlight. And I'm going to right click on this layer, and I'm going to do create clipping mask, Alt Control G, create clipping mask. And what that does for me, and I'm going to switch to white, is it allows me to only draw right on that area. So it's clipping anything outside. Even though it's drawing out here, you can't see it. It's only going to display what's over it. So let's undo that. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before with this. I'm going to click here, hold shift, click on the top, and now I've got my little highlight, but it's too bright. It's too harsh. It doesn't look natural. It just looks like snow, if anything, right? So I'm going to change my blending mode. That's what this is under normal. And I'm going to change it to either overlay or overlay works. So overlay. And now I've just created that little crate here exactly as I did this one. So anyway, that's how you go ahead and do that. I'm going to save this out. In class example. And I'm going to save this out as create example diffuse. And I'm also going to save this out one more time. Now, one other thing, really quick, just a quick Photoshop thing. I know this is kind of like difficult to see, but if you wanted to make this a little bit more organized, if you wanted to, just click the top one, hold shift, right click the last one, and there's a little folder button down here. You can click on that, create it, or they call it create new group, but it creates it into a little folder. Wooden planks. And now I have them all in a little wooden plank folder, and you can do that as you wish. You can create this one into original wood planks if you wanted to keep them. And I always like to keep the originals of what I was working with. So this way, if I ever need to go back and change something to it, I have the originals that I can always sort of start fresh with without having to do a whole lot of editing on an image already. So in case I merge something down, so it's just a good habit to be into. But anyway, I'll resave that since I just made some changes. And now I will go to one last thing. I can go to File, Export, Export As. JPEG is fine, 2048. Click Export. And it's going to be in your folder. Locate the folder you want to save it to. And click Save. And now, in my... This is my UV map, but... so now in my UV map... Open. So this was the diffuse map I was working with that I showed you. This is what your UV map would look like, and you can start to just... Oop. Is this the JPEG? JPEG. Control A, Control C, and then you can go into your UV map. I'll just go back to my diffuse that I started and press Control V. And now I'm going to go to my free transform mode, edit, free transform, or Control T. And I'm going to scale this down to fit. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for each one. So this is my, oops, numbers example. And I'm just going to, I'll keep it on for now. I forget which way this was pointing, but if I really wanted to get technical, I could find out because I was rotating it around, and I could rotate my Maya file to find out which direction it's pointed in. So if I click on it, it's hard to tell actually. Left. Which way was it originally? I can't remember. So anyway, oop. We are going to, now that I've got this one in here, create one. I'll just do a duplicate. I'm just clicking it and dragging this crate down to my new layer, create new layer. And now I'm going to, I can use my move tool. I have a habit of always going to Control T, just much faster for me. And if you want to make sure that you're over this exactly how you want it to be, you can go onto your layer and adjust the opacity so you can kind of see that you make sure that you're over the entire thing. And in this case, I think that's good. You can go back and bring it all the way up. Same thing with my first one, my little opacity tab. I just click the down arrow just to check. Click back on it. I think that's good. And you can do that for each one and then just bring the opacity back up. Create two. Click and drag. Bring down the opacity if you like. Make sure you're over the entire thing. And it's always good to be just outside. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's always good to be able to have your texture just outside that little line. So nothing kind of bleeds through as nothing there. So that'll work. And let's change the opacity back up to 100. Control 0 to zoom to fit. I'm gonna rename this create 3. And I'm gonna just run through the rest of this real quick to get the show on the road on this. That'll work. Okay. And this is great. 5. Oop, that was a little weird. And this is create 6. So now I've created my entire little texture map, and I'm going to save this out. Diffuse map is fine. Yes. Okay. And then I'm also going to File, Export, Export As, Alt Control Shift W. Now that is a long keyboard shortcut. Export it as a JPEG. Export. Name your example. In this case, so I know. Create example. Diffuse map, save. And now I've got that. So now if I go into Maya, I'm going to go to object mode and reselect my object. I'm going to go to my channel box here, and I'm going to, or no, I meant to go to my attribute editor and my create Arnold material. I'm going to go back over here and relocate that file. Oh. Now, actually, it's not a bad example. So this is what's going to happen if I, this is what it looks like. That's why it's so important to put those, scale those crates into the proper UVs. Otherwise, it's going to look really, really, really weird, right? So select on it. I selected the wrong one. This is the one I needed. And now I've got my crate diffuse. Now this is going to be perfectly fine for, you're basically done here, right? You've created your cube, you created the automatic unwrap, you applied your texture, and this is pretty much ready for submission. When you submit, I want you to take a screenshot of something like this. And I really, really do encourage you to utilize Photoshop to do this lab and try to create your own art, if you will, so you can have it, the practice, because we do dabble with Photoshop quite a bit. But I did include the texture file, or a texture file, in your lab. And I want to also cover really quickly, it's not a requirement for this lab, but I want to show it to you anyway. If you submit it with this done, great, you're on the right track. I mean, you're already on the right track, but it'll just give you more practice and get you a little bit more comfortable. So Photoshop used to have a plugin in here that would allow you, and it was just in the software, that you could just create a normal map with, right? It used to be super simple. You used to go to filter. There was one of these that said 3D and generate normal map. They got rid of it. They no longer support 3D features, which is a shame, because it was pretty awesome and pretty simple to get some really cool texture maps and projection texturing and things like that, which is no longer here. But they own the rights to a software called Substance Painter, and when they acquired the rights to that, they basically started to fade out their 3D program in here. So you can find it on the Adobe Creative Suite, but I'm not going to cover anything in it. I believe it's Substance 3D Apps, Substance 3D Modeler. It's probably, they might have renamed it after they took it, but it used to be called Substance Painter. But that's what they use for their 3D. They have a Substance 3D Painter. There it is. So texture models in real time. So that's how they've basically swapped over, but now you have to buy it. You can always download the free trial, but I'm not going to cover anything in Substance just because. Looks like I have updates to do. I'll do that after I close everything down and shut it down, so it doesn't say your Photoshop is open, you can't update until you close it, kind of thing. Anyway, they got rid of the 3D feature in Photoshop, and now they utilize it. Basically, it's all in that Substance Painter, and that's how you would project textures on a live 3D model, which you can no longer do in Photoshop. So we are going to be doing it this way, and this is actually the most standard and obvious way, but it's great to learn new things anyway. We won't be covering that, but once you get here, you're basically ready to submit. Once you have it in your file, just be sure to check the rubric. The other thing I wanted to go over was in our Canvas module Lab 8 Introduction to Texturing. I've also included a normal map conversion site. It actually does normal maps, specular maps, something. It does a couple different things. Very, very, very simple. I'm going to click on it. It's going to take you in here, and you can actually change displacement, ambient occlusion, and specular. So the only two we're going to worry about is specular and normal, and in here anyway, in our diffuse. So we are going to, and the only way it lets you to do this is actually I don't think it lets you do it any other way than to click. Will it do it? Okay, so you can just click on it. For some reason, I was only able to click and drag on it. And I'm going to go to in-class example. It is this one. And I'm going to click open. And you'll see that it actually generates a normal map for you right away, because I have it on under normal map once I import that image. And I'm going to, it looks like it's backwards to me. It's hard to see. Let's see if I can zoom in. It looks like it's like that middle plank is indented instead of popping out. So if you click on this little height button, you'll see it reverses, which I think is really, really neat. You can also start playing around with the strength of it. So if you wanted it to be really, really harsh, which I don't recommend, and there's no Control Z in here, so you kind of just got to eyeball it. You can play around with the level, the blurriness, and the sharpness. I don't know. It's really cool. It lets you do this. I think that's gonna work. I don't know. If you just click the height button and it reverses, even if you don't, I just wanted to show you this. And you can click download, and it pops up here as normal map. And I'm going to right click and hit cut, and I'm going to put it in the right folder. And then I'll do the same for the ambient occlusion, or not the ambient occlusion. We're going to do the specular map. Ambient occlusion maps are actually really cool. Let's see what it looks like. This is something you could add shadow to, but we just painted it in, so I'm not going to get too far into it. We're not going to touch base on that. We're just going to go straight to specular, which controls our shininess on how light reflects off the object. And let's go ahead and bring the strength down, play around with it a little bit. I think that's great. I want the background to be totally black, and then this is great, this range. So now some of it, you'll see some of it's like really highlighting. You can do this in Photoshop just by converting it to a black and white image and changing the levels, but since I'm here, I'm just going to do it this way. Same exact thing you would do in Photoshop, and you can just sort of see how it's going to appear. And I'm really just trying to toggle around with these just to see how they all kind of look. I think that'll be fine. I think something like that'll be cool. So let's download that one. Cut, documents, desktop, McHenry County College, Lab 8. We're going to paste it. Create specular, create in class example specular. Okay, and then in my Maya, now that I have those, I just want to show you one last thing. I'm going to show you an intro to specular maps and normal maps, which I just did. I'm also going to show you how to create a quick light in here, so we can see what this thing looks like in its glory, right? So I'm going to click on my cube, under my specular, under the color tab, I'm going to click the little checker box that opens it up, and I'm going to go to file, because I'm going to import an image. I'm going to click on this folder. I'm going to locate my specular map. In class example, I'm looking for the am I just not seeing it? Did I save it in here? No. Whoops. That's not the right one. Create in class example. under lab 8. Ah, I had it in the wrong folder. Let's see if it lets me. There we go. Open. So now I've got my specular map on it, which isn't going to do. It probably did do a lot more than I even realized. But you'll notice it's only going to. We don't have any lights in here. We just have the default lighting. So, but I do have it set to pretty dark because if it was metal, I'd have it much brighter. But since wood doesn't have like a whole lot of shine, especially when it's weathered and worn. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is under my bump mapping, under this geometry tab, under my Create Arnold material, under bump mapping, we're gonna go to File. Now this is the most important part to remember because otherwise the software doesn't know how to read it properly. And I'll cover this again when we go more in depth on normal maps. Use as, it says bump, we're going to use as tangent space normals. Use as tangent space normals. And then I'm going to click this little arrow here, this darkened arrow, and locate my in class normal map. And now you'll see it's actually starting to project some of that depth. Looks a little weird because I don't have a light in the scene, but you can actually start to see the depth that it is creating. So now, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Arnold, Lights, and Sky Dome Light, and I'm going to press 7 on my keyboard. And now you can really get a good idea of what this thing will look like. Looks pretty cool, right? So anyway, that is the way to do this, and we are just simply in our viewport 2.0. You can do a preview render on it, but if you don't have a powerful computer, I wouldn't recommend switching to this Arnold renderer. Let's see. There it goes. And that's what it would look like. And it's just rendering just the actual object in the scene. It's not rendering the background or anything. It's just rendering the object. And you'll see how much slower it works. So I don't recommend doing that unless you have a strong enough computer. But viewport 2.0 is just more than fine. Anyway, submitting your file like this is great. I know I took this way further than I needed to, but I wanted to really, really get into the nitty-gritty of introduction to texturing, and we just did quite a bit. And this is a really cool little first texturing lab to do because it's not a complicated model and you actually get some really great results on it. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Canvas. Shoot me a message on Canvas inbox. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm looking forward to seeing your submissions, and for it you just need a screenshot of the model with the texture map being displayed on both here and here, whatever I have in the rubric. Let's just take a quick look-see. So include a screenshot of your UVs with the texture applied. You could take a screenshot of both panes in Maya with the texture applied and saved layout Persp UV editor view, and be sure to press 6 on your keyboard in both perspective view and UV editor to ensure texture file is on shaded display with texture. Include a screenshot of your model, the cube, with your texture displayed on it from perspective view. You could take a screenshot of both panes in Maya, blah, 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 blah. I just had that written. Submit your Maya and texture image files. This is not a screenshot. This is actual Maya file and texture file. The texture file could be either the Photoshop file or in this case it says TGA. The JPEG file we created is fine. And I will actually update that right now. There we go. And update rubric. And so anyway, that is everything I'm looking for. You get 5 points on this, 5 points on this, 10 and 10. So make sure that you do follow the rubric on all of these. But other than that, shoot me a message anytime. More than happy to assist. This is an old video, so I keep them up there in case you ever did want to, in case there's anything in there. If you're watching my video over and over, maybe to do the lab, maybe you want to switch it up, switch gears. Maya hasn't changed a whole lot since 2019. There are some new features, but really what we cover in this class, it hasn't changed a whole lot since 2019, which is why I'm keeping these up here in case there's something that I forgot to include or something like that you can always reference back to. Other than that, again, can't emphasize it enough. Shoot me a message on Canvas if you have any questions, concerns. It doesn't matter if it's about this lab or the future lab or a lab we did, or if it's unrelated and it's how to create a strong portfolio in 3D. I'm more than happy to talk with you and get that all situated. But other than that, hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and I hope you stay tuned for the next one.